The moment the slap landed on my cheek, the sound wasn't crisp like in the movies. It was a dull thud, like a heavy textbook slamming onto the floor. What followed was a burning sting, the heat rapidly spreading from my left cheek to my ear, making my entire skull buzz. The deafening hip-hop music at the party seemed to hit mute in an instant, and the frat guys around us holding red plastic cups and playing beer pong froze mid-motion, dozens of eyes pinned on me like spotlights. I hadn't even had time to raise my hand to cover my face before I heard Blake's furious roar. "Harper, are you done making a scene? This is a public place, not your Vanderbilt family's backyard. Stop acting like a spoiled, crazy bitch." Lauren, standing behind him, was wearing an obviously oversized men's jersey, Blake's number, with nothing but a pair of extremely short, hot pants on her lower half. Her face wore that signature look of innocent yet slightly provocative alarm, both hands clutching Blake's arm tightly, as if I were some kind of monster. "Oh my God, Blake, don't be like that. Harper is just too sensitive." Lauren's voice wasn't loud, but it was just enough to carry through the dead silence. "I was really just joking. I thought a princess like her would have some sense of humor. I'm not as dramatic as you girls. I was just trying to liven up the mood." Sense of humor? I could taste a hint of rusty, bloody flavor in my mouth. 10 minutes ago, Lauren kindly handed me an oat milk latte. As my fiancé and a key figure in the merger between our two families' businesses, Blake knew perfectly well that I had a severe dairy protein allergy, severe enough to potentially cause anaphylactic shock. But he just stood there smiling, watching Lauren hand it to me. When I took a sip and felt my throat starting to tighten and my breathing becoming labored, I confronted Lauren about whether there was milk in it. Lauren just shrugged indifferently. "Oops, they ran out of oat milk, so I just added some whole milk. Come on, it's just a little milk, not poison. You socialites are so dramatic. Is drinking a little milk really gonna kill you?" I threw the drink all over her right then and there. Then Blake, this man who grew up with me, who could only maintain his respectable lifestyle thanks to my family's foundation funding, slapped me across the face in front of half the Yale alumni circle, all to defend this so-called cool girl. I took a deep breath, forcing down the nausea churning in my stomach and the slight dizziness from my allergies starting to kick in. I didn't cry, didn't even tremble. The upbringing from growing up on Manhattan's Upper East Side, along with my self-awareness as a Vanderbilt heir, kept my spine ramrod straight in this moment. Tears are the weapon of the weak, and what I need right now is a nuclear weapon. Done hitting? I looked at Blake calmly, my voice cold as the ice water of the Hudson River in January. Blake froze for a moment, seemingly not expecting me to not grovel like before or run away crying like a little girl. He looked at his own palm, a flash of panic in his eyes, but it was quickly refilled with vain courage by Lauren's adoring gaze. "You made me do it, Harper," Blake said, forcing himself to speak, trying to regain control of the situation. "You should apologize to Bella. She's not like you. She's the kind of down-to-earth girl who can hang with the guys. She doesn't understand all your roundabout rules." "Very well." I nodded and took out my phone from my Prada handbag. "What are you gonna do? Call your control freak dad to cry about it?" Lauren sneered, swirling the beer in her hand. "Still running to mommy and daddy at your age? What a princess who never grew up." I ignored her, my fingertips dancing rapidly across the screen. I wasn't calling my father. I dialed 911, then pulled up the number for the family's 24-hour on-call legal team. "This is the Alpha Delta Phi fraternity house at Yale University. Address is 23 High Street." I spoke into the phone, my voice clear and calm, every word like a courtroom statement. "I've been assaulted and there was an attempted poisoning. The perpetrator's name is Blake Sterling. Yes, I have injuries, and there are approximately 50 witnesses at the scene." Blake's face instantly turned deathly pale, that self-righteous arrogance crumbling like a melting wax figure. In America, hitting someone isn't a couple's quarrel. It's a real criminal offense. "Are you crazy?" He rushed over trying to grab my phone. "Why the fuck are you calling the cops? This will ruin my record. I'm supposed to start my internship at Morgan Stanley next month." Before his hand could reach me, a figure suddenly flashed out from the side. The movement was too fast to see clearly. All I saw was a slender yet powerful hand with defined knuckles precisely gripping Blake's wrist, then bending it downward in a seemingly casual motion. "Ah!" Blake let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered, his whole body forced to kneel on the ground. I looked up and met a pair of black eyes, deep as a cold pool. It was Noah, that genius from the computer science department, always wearing a gray hoodie, the invisible man sitting in the corner of the library. Rumor had it he was an orphan who got in on a full scholarship, and also the freak that Lauren and Blake always mocked as boring like a robot. At this moment, this nerd was pinning down the tall and brawny school football team quarterback Blake with just one hand without even breaking a sweat. According to New York State penal law, if you snatch her phone now, the charge will escalate from third-degree assault to interfering with an emergency call. That's a felony. Noah's voice was low and raspy, carrying an oppressive presence that didn't match his age. He didn't even glance at Blake. His gaze remained fixed on my face, as if assessing the degree of swelling on my cheek. "Let go of me, you bastard. Do you know who I am?" Blake's face was contorted with pain. "I know," Noah replied coldly, the second young master of Sterling Industries. "But as far as I know, your company's bridge loan is due next Tuesday. If you get a criminal record, the default risk assessment for that loan will go straight through the roof." Dead silence all around. Lauren's jaw dropped, not even noticing the beer spilling from her hand all over the ground. The sound of police sirens approached from the distance, piercing through the tranquility of the campus night. I looked at Blake kneeling on the ground, like looking at a bag of non-recyclable garbage. I stepped forward, looking down at him from above, slowly removing the sapphire engagement ring from my left middle finger, the one that symbolized the business marriage between our two families. "Blake," I said softly, my tone without any ripples, "you just said Lauren isn't like me, that she doesn't know the rules. You're right. In this circle, the price for not knowing the rules is very expensive." I let go. The six-figure ring fell onto the floor stained with beer and dust, making a crisp clink, and rolled to Lauren's cheap canvas shoes. "I don't want it anymore." I turned around and nodded at Noah, who had been standing in front of me the whole time. Just like this man, dirty. The alternating red and blue lights of the police cars cast an eerie glow over the lawn in front of the fraternity house. Two burly campus police officers and a New Haven city cop were taking Blake's statement. He no longer had his arrogant attitude from before, like a defeated rooster, clutching his wrist pathetically while trying to explain to the police that this was just a little friction between a couple. Lauren stood to the side, now putting her specialty of being too delicate to take care of herself to full use, trying to squeeze out a few tears to gain sympathy. But the police clearly had no patience for this underage drinker reeking of alcohol. I sat on the back edge of the ambulance. The paramedics were icing my cheek and checking for allergic reactions. Fortunately, I hadn't actually swallowed that sip of latte earlier. It was just the allergic reaction causing some swelling in my throat. "You need to go to the hospital for a thorough examination and get an injury report. It's crucial evidence for applying for a temporary restraining order." Noah stood beside me, holding an unopened bottle of mineral water, and handed it to me. I took the water, somewhat surprised by his attentiveness. How did he know my throat was parched as hell right now? "Thanks." I took a sip. The cold liquid slightly eased the restlessness in my chest. "What you did just now, was that Krav Maga?" Noah didn't deny it, just said flatly, "If you plan to sue him, I can be a witness. Also, I made a backup of the surveillance footage from the party while I was at it, in case the frat guys try to delete it." I gave him a long, hard look. This usually quiet man had a frighteningly meticulous mind, but right now he stood in the shadows on my side, like a silent wall, blocking all the prying and malicious gazes for me. I'm gonna make him pay, Noah. I gripped the water bottle tightly, my knuckles turning white. Not just legally, I know. A flicker of emotion I couldn't quite read passed through Noah's eyes, like heartache, or perhaps some long, suppressed rage. You need to make a phone call. Yes, I need to make a phone call. I took out my phone and dialed my father's private number. It was 10 at night, and father should still be in his study handling documents. The phone was answered after just one ring. Harper? It's so late. Is something the matter? Father's voice was as steady as always, carrying a composure that suggested he had everything under control. Dad. I tried to make my voice sound like I was giving a business report rather than a wrong daughter. My engagement to Blake Sterling has been called off, tonight. There were 2 seconds of silence on the other end. Reason. Father didn't ask whether this small matter was worth it. He only needed to assess the risks and benefits. He physically assaulted me in a public place, resulting in soft tissue contusions on my face, and enabled a third party's attempted poisoning of me. The police have already gotten involved, and I'll be applying for a restraining order. I paused, then played my final card. The heir the Sterling family raised is an emotionally unstable risk factor with violent tendencies. If we merge our family's logistics lines into Sterling Industries, not only will there be management risks in the future, but his scandals will also affect stock prices. Father chuckled softly on the other end, a satisfied laugh. Well done, Harper. Cutting your losses promptly when facing sunk costs. That's a basic quality of an excellent investor. Are you all right? I'm fine. But I hope the Sterling family understands that even a dog belonging to the Vanderbilt family isn't someone just anyone can kick, let alone their only daughter. Understood. Father's voice became cold and efficient. That $50 million bridge loan for Sterling Industries was supposed to be signed and released next Tuesday. I'll notify the CFO to activate the risk circuit breaker at 8 tomorrow morning and suspend all cooperation. Also, I'll have the PR department prepare a statement. The news about breaking off the engagement due to incompatible values will appear in the Wall Street Journal tomorrow morning. Hanging up the phone, I felt completely drained, letting out a long, heavy breath. This is our world. No melodramatic crying and pulling, just the noose of capital. Once it tightens, it suffocates you. Let's go, Noah suddenly spoke. Where to? The hospital. My car's over there. He pointed at an inconspicuous black sedan parked by the roadside, but under the streetlight's reflection, I recognized it as a modified Audi RS7, a low-key beast. I didn't refuse. After experiencing betrayal, humiliation, and counterattack, I didn't want to be alone. Nor did I want to go back to that luxurious, yet empty apartment. The car had a faint scent of cedar, the same as Noah's, clean and crisp. He didn't try to find topics or fill the silence with cheap comfort like other guys would. He just drove quietly. The New Haven streetscape outside the window flew backward rapidly. I remembered how Blake used to drive me through these streets countless times in the Porsche I gave him. Back then, I thought it was love. Now I realize it was just him enjoying the vanity of being the future son-in-law of the Vanderbilt family. You've always known, haven't you? I suddenly spoke up, breaking the silence in the car. Noah kept his eyes on the road ahead, his slender fingers gripping the steering wheel steadily. Known what? That Blake is a loser and that Lauren has always been targeting me. The whole school knew, Noah said calmly, with a hint of barely detectable sarcasm in his tone. Only you were in that circle, seeing people through rose-colored glasses. Sterling just saw you as a ticket into high society, and that Lauren, a typical pick-me girl, she gained approval from those stupid guys by putting you down. His words were blunt, even a bit harsh, but every word dissected the truth with surgical precision. I was really stupid, wasn't I? I laughed self-deprecatingly, the pain in my cheek reminding me of my earlier foolishness. The car stopped at a red light. Noah turned his head. It was the first time tonight he looked me directly in the eyes. The light and shadow from the street lamp carved sharp angles on his profile. His gaze was deep and intent, as if I were the only thing in this world worth his attention. "You're not stupid, Harper," he said seriously. "You're just too kind, thinking everyone would honor feelings the way you honor contracts. But some people don't deserve that." The light turned green. The roar of the engine drowned out the beat. My heart skipped in that instant. By the time we arrived at Yale New Haven Hospital's emergency department, it was already late at night. Noah expertly helped me register, and even when I didn't want to talk because of my swollen face, he described my allergy symptoms and how I got injured to the nurse in detail. After getting my wounds treated, as I walked out of the hospital holding a thick stack of injury reports and prescriptions, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number, but I knew it was Blake because I had already blocked his main account. "Harper, you've really gone too far. The bank just emailed saying my credit card has been frozen. That's an account linked to your dad's supplementary card. Was that really necessary? You're going to ruin me over something this small?" "Lauren is still crying at the police station. Hurry up and tell the cops it was a misunderstanding, or don't blame me for not remembering our past." Looking at this text, I almost laughed out loud. Even at this moment, he was still trying to gaslight me, thinking I was still that fool who would back down as soon as he got a little tough. What's wrong? Noah opened the car door for me. "Nothing." I casually added that number to the blacklist too, then looked up at the dark yet starlit night sky. "I just feel like sorting garbage is really important. Starting tomorrow, Blake Sterling's world will be turned upside down. His prized sports car, the capital he squanders at the fraternity, his precarious family business, all of it will pay a bloody price because of tonight's slap. And I, Harper Vanderbilt, have only just begun my game. Early the next morning, Yale's campus radio hadn't even started broadcasting the news yet, but the news I created had already spread like a virus. I sat in a secluded cafe that Noah had recommended, with a steaming cup of black coffee and a freshly delivered copy of the Wall Street Journal in front of me. In an inconspicuous spot on the front page was a brief statement powerful enough to cause an earthquake. Vanderbilt Group announces suspension of all M&A negotiations with Sterling Industries and will reassess its supply chain risks. This is the butterfly effect. Last night's slap wiped out 20% of Sterling Industries' stock price after today's market opening. My phone hadn't stopped since 7 in the morning. Notification sounds from various social apps kept going off one after another, but I only opened the email from my lawyer. The TRO has been approved. Court summons will be delivered to Blake Sterling and Lauren Miller within the hour. Based on the campus zero-tolerance policy on violence, the university will hold a hearing on Friday. Additionally, all of Blake's supplementary credit cards have been confirmed frozen. I took a sip of coffee, the bitter taste clearing my head. Looks like it's working well. Noah had somehow ended up sitting across from me. He'd changed into a dark blue shirt, sleeves casually rolled up, revealing a section of toned forearm. In his hands was a MacBook that looked old but had actually been modified, the screen flickering with code I didn't understand. "How'd you know I was here?" I raised an eyebrow. "I set up the firewall for this shop's Wi-Fi. Whenever someone connects, I know." He didn't even look up, fingers dancing across the keyboard. "By the way, good news for you. Blake is throwing a fit in front of the admin building right now because his student ID card won't open the dorm access anymore. After the restraining order took effect, he has to move out of areas you frequent, including that luxury dorm just 2 blocks from your apartment." I curved the corner of my lips. Where he lives now is none of my business, but I'm more curious how long his status in the fraternity can hold up. "Probably won't last past lunch." Noah turned the computer screen around to show me. It was a hot post on Yale's campus forum titled, "From Prince to Frog, the inside story of the Sterling second son getting kicked out of the fraternity." The post detailed the entire process of Blake getting hauled into the station last night for hitting a woman, and even juicier was an anonymous tip below. According to reliable sources, Blake always used his fiance's family's supplementary card when treating people to drinks. Now the engagement's off and the card's canceled. Who's going to hang with him anymore? This was basically ripping off Blake's elite rich kid facade and stomping it into the ground. In the social circles of elite American universities, being broke might still be tolerable. But once you get labeled as a kept man who beats women, that's social death. This anonymous tip-off, I pointed at that comment, looking at Noah. Noah shrugged innocently. I was just stating facts. Besides, I posted it using the IP address of one of Lauren's fake besties. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This move of killing with a borrowed knife was played brilliantly. It not only struck at Blake, but also planted a seed of suspicion in that little clique centered around Lauren. Thank you, Noah, really. I put away my smile and looked at him seriously. But I'm curious, why are you helping me? We weren't close before. Noah's fingers paused for a moment. He looked up, and those deep eyes seemed to hide some meaning I couldn't understand, like a volcano that had been dormant for ages. You'll find out later. He avoided my gaze and closed his laptop. Let's go. Time for class. You have macroeconomics today, and Blake also signed up for this course. According to the restraining order, he has to drop the class or switch classrooms. When we walked into the lecture hall, the originally noisy space suddenly went quiet for 3 seconds. I deliberately wore a sharply tailored white blazer today, paired with high-waisted, wide-leg pants, and put on exquisite makeup that not only covered up the slight redness and swelling, but also made me look absolutely commanding. I looked like I was heading to a board meeting, not coming to class. Blake was sitting in the back row of the classroom with Lauren next to him. When he saw me come in, Blake suddenly stood up, his handsome yet slightly haggard face turning liver-colored. Harper, do you really have to be this ruthless? A restraining order? You're trying to drive me to death, he shouted, trying to use volume to cover up his guilt. The professor walked in with a frown. Seeing this tense standoff, he pushed up his glasses. Mr. Sterling, please sit down. This is a classroom. I ignored Blake's impotent rage and walked straight to the professor, handing over a copy of the documents my lawyer had prepared. Sorry to interrupt, Professor. This is a temporary restraining order issued by the court. According to the terms, Mr. Blake Sterling cannot be within 100 feet of me, since this course is a required class for me and cannot be transferred. So I turned around and looked at the pale-faced Blake with a smile. Security is already at the door. Blake, are you going to leave on your own or let them escort you out? The entire class's eyes darted back and forth between me and Blake. The shame of being publicly humiliated made Blake tremble all over. Lauren tugged at the hem of his shirt, whispering something, but Blake shook her off roughly. Don't touch me, Blake yelled at Lauren, then glared at me viciously. You'll regret this, Harper. Without the Sterling family's support, your logistics lines on the West Coast won't have it so easy either. With that, he grabbed his bag and scurried out of the classroom with his tail between his legs. I watched his pathetic, retreating figure, feeling nothing but a barren calm inside. The West Coast logistics lines? Those were non-performing assets that my father had already started planning to divest 6 months ago, a mess originally intended to be dumped on the Sterling family as a dowry for them to deal with. Since he's shown no loyalty, let his family sort out that mess themselves. I elegantly found a seat and sat down. Noah naturally took the seat next to me. Impressive, he commented in a low voice. It was all right. I flipped open my book. Compared to business negotiations, this kind of schoolyard pecking is still too low level. But I knew this was only round 1. People like Blake won't give up until they hit rock bottom. He'll definitely strike back, and what I need to do is completely cut off his escape routes when he does. Chapter 4. Library Confrontation. Over the next week, my life seemed to get back on track, even more efficient than before, without the man-child fiancé I had to accommodate. Without those superficial social parties, I poured all my energy into my family trust management courses and the upcoming finals. Blake, on the other hand, was clearly not having a good time. I heard he had completely lost his standing in the fraternity, and even those freshmen who used to revolve around him would take a detour when they saw him. Lauren was still by his side, but the two often argued in corners of the campus. Lauren's cool girl persona had collapsed, and people started calling her Poison Latte Girl. Although there wasn't enough solid evidence to prosecute her for poisoning, the public opinion was enough to make her socially dead on campus. On Friday night, I was studying in a private study room at the library. Noah sat across from me, helping me build a data model for analyzing family asset allocation. This algorithm can predict return rates under different risk levels. Noah pointed at the screen. It's at least 5 years more advanced than the model your father's current financial advisor uses. I looked at his focused profile, and a warm feeling welled up in my heart. This past week, he was like my shadow, silent yet omnipresent. He never talked much, but whenever I needed a glass of water, a document, or even just a quiet glance, he was always there. Noah, you're so talented. Why don't you go to Silicon Valley or Wall Street? I couldn't help but ask. I'm starting a business. He said casually, besides, there's something here I haven't finished. Something unfinished? Before I could ask more, the seminar room door was suddenly pushed open with force. Blake barged in, reeking of alcohol, with a scruffy beard and sunken eyes, looking nothing like the Yale elite he used to be. He was holding a bottle of liquor, clearly drunk, completely ignoring the "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door and the restraining order. "Harper, you have to talk to me!" He staggered over, his voice hoarse. "My dad's company is about to go bankrupt. The bank refused to renew our loan because of my criminal record. Are you trying to drive my whole family to death?" I closed my book and looked at him calmly. "Blake, you're violating the restraining order right now. If you don't leave immediately, I'll call the police, and this time you'll really go to jail." "Jail? Ha 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 ha." Blake let out a manic laugh. "I'm already like this. Why would I be afraid of jail? It's all because of you. If you hadn't gone crazy and called the police that day, how would things have turned out like this? I only slapped you once. So many men hit their wives. Why are you being so dramatic?" This was his logic. Even now, he still thought I was the one at fault, that I was wrong for not obediently enduring his violence, wrong for ruining his future. He suddenly lunged at me, trying to grab my shoulders. "What do you think you're doing?" I dodged backward, the chair making a harsh scraping sound. But Blake's hand didn't touch me. Noah, as if he had anticipated this all along, sprang up from his seat and blocked in front of me. "Get out!" Noah's voice was no longer low and deep, but carried an extremely dangerous coldness. "You again? You little tag-along, did you sleep with her?" Blake was enraged, swinging the bottle at Noah's head. "I'll fucking wreck you along with her today." I cried out in alarm, "Watch out!" The next few seconds happened so fast, like a slow-motion replay in an action movie. Noah didn't take the bottle head-on. He sidestepped the attack, while his left hand grabbed Blake's bottle-holding wrist. His right hand formed a palm and struck hard at Blake's jaw. Bang! The bottle shattered on the ground. Blake screamed and fell backward, but Noah didn't stop. He stepped forward with the momentum, his knee slamming hard into Blake's abdomen, followed by a textbook shoulder throw. A teeth-gritting sound of cracking bone rang out. Blake slammed face down onto the floor, blood instantly gushing from his nose, staining the expensive carpet red. "Ah! My nose! My nose is broken!" Blake rolled on the ground, his wailing screams utterly piercing. The library security guards rushed over at the sound, stunned by the bloody scene before them. Noah stood to the side, straightening his slightly disheveled collar, his breathing as steady as if he'd just done a warm-up routine. He turned his head, first checking whether I'd been hit by any broken glass, then looked toward the security guards rushing over. He violated a restraining order, assaulted with a weapon, and attempted to harm a protected person. I acted in self-defense. Noah pointed at the camera in the corner of the ceiling. The surveillance should have captured everything clearly. I looked at the man on the ground, crying like a baby. I once thought he was my future, but now it seemed he wasn't even worth being called a joke. "Drag him out," I said to the security guards, my voice dripping with disgust. "Call the police while you're at it. This time he really needs to sober up in a detention cell." Blake was still cursing as he was carried away, but his voice grew more and more distant. The seminar room returned to silence, with only the bloodstains and broken glass on the floor as reminders of what had just happened. "Are you hurt?" I pulled Noah's hand toward me, checking his knuckles. There was a bit of redness there, probably from hitting too hard. "No." Noah turned his hand and held mine, his palm dry and warm. "Don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, no one can touch you." In that moment, I heard the sound of my own walls crumbling down. In this world filled with scheming, self-interest, and hypocrisy, for the first time, someone threw a punch not for any ulterior motive, but simply to protect me. "Noah." I lifted my head, looking into his eyes. "To thank you for saving me." "Would you be my date to the graduation gala tomorrow?" This was Yale's most important social event of the year, and also the stage where I would officially announce my return to singlehood to the entire high society circle. Noah's eyes lit up for a moment, the corner of his lips curving into a faint yet incredibly attractive arc. "My utmost honor, my lady." Chapter 5. The Gala and the Ultimatum. Yale's graduation gala was held at the historic Yale Club, one of the most exclusive social landmarks in Midtown Manhattan. Crystal chandeliers cast golden halos of light. Distinguished alumni in haute couture gowns held champagne glasses, whispering about the latest stock market trends and political winds amid the rustling silk and perfumed elegance. When I walked into the hall on Noah's arm, I could clearly feel the air around us go still. Tonight I wore a deep green velvet spaghetti strap gown, the backless design showcasing the smooth lines of my spine. I wore no jewelry around my neck because I myself was the most expensive piece on display. And Noah. Oh my God, Noah. The invisible man who usually wore a gray hoodie and lurked in library corners had changed into a perfectly tailored Tom Ford black tuxedo tonight. His hair was slicked back, revealing a smooth, full forehead and those deep, heart-stopping eyes. That upright posture formed through years of self-discipline and combat training made him exude an ascetic yet dangerous masculine aura just by standing there. Is that Noah, the weirdo from the computer science department? Oh my God, when did he become so hot? I heard Harper just broke up with Blake and already brought him here. That's way too high profile. Whispers surged toward us like a tide, but I didn't care at all. I could feel Noah's arm muscles, firm and powerful, which gave me an unprecedented sense of security. "Nervous?" I tilted my head and asked softly in his ear. "Not nervous," Noah replied in a low voice with a hint of amusement. "I'm just thinking that your group of admirers look like they want to tear me apart and eat me alive." We had just grabbed a glass of champagne when an uninvited guest blocked our way. Blake. Surprisingly, he had actually snuck in. Thick white gauze was plastered across his nose bridge, making him look ridiculous and laughable. The suit he wore was all wrinkled and crumpled, clearly unwashed for days or some cheap rental from somewhere. Lauren, standing next to him, was all dressed up, wearing a sequined mini skirt, still trying to maintain that "I don't fit in, but I'm cool" persona. But here, she looked cheap, like a wild duck that had stumbled into a flock of swans. "Harper, let's talk." Blake's voice sounded strange through his nasal congestion. He tried to squeeze out an affectionate look, but on that swollen face it only looked hideous. "I know you're still mad at me, but I'm here today to propose." "Propose?" The crowd around instantly quieted down, everyone waiting to watch this farce. Blake pulled out a black velvet box from his pocket, trembling as he opened it. Inside was a ruby ring that looked somewhat aged. It was a sterling family heirloom, said to be worn only by the eldest daughter-in-law. Harper, this was left to me by my grandmother. Before, I thought the time wasn't right, but now I know I can't live without you. Blake knelt on one knee, but his movements were so stiff it looked like he was being tortured. I know I did wrong, but it was because I loved you too much, cared about you too much that I lost control. Forgive me. Come back to me. We can save both families' businesses together. Even at this point, he was still trying to guilt-trip me, still using both families' businesses as bargaining chips. He didn't love me at all. What he loved was just the lifeline the Vanderbilt family could give him. Blake? I looked coldly at him, kneeling on the ground, not even bothering to lift my eyelids. Did you forget? Your restraining order hasn't been lifted yet. You're less than 3 feet away from me right now. That's already a violation. Don't be so heartless, Harper, Lauren cut in from the side, her tone sharp. Blake is already begging you like this. What more do you want? Do you have to watch him die before you're satisfied? You rich girls are just cold-hearted. You don't understand what true love is. True love? I let out a scoff. Lauren? Your so-called true love? Is that sleeping with him on that single bed in his dorm while we were still together? A collective gasp erupted from the crowd. Lauren's face instantly turned deathly pale. You're talking nonsense, Lauren shrieked. What proof do you have? This is slander. Proof? Noah suddenly spoke up. He pulled out his phone from the inside pocket of his suit, tapped a few times, then connected it to the giant projection screen in the center of the hall. Since everyone's here, why don't we all enjoy the true love records of Mr. Sterling and Miss Miller together? Several chat record screenshots instantly popped up on the screen. They were Lauren's messages in a small group chat called Girls' Night. That dumbass Blake bought me another bag again, swiped his fiancé's card for it. I'm dying laughing. Harper is just a walking ATM machine. As long as I provoke her a little, Blake will argue with her to save face, and then I can swoop in to comfort him. Don't worry, I added whole milk to that latte. If that pretentious woman dies from an allergic reaction, even better. The Sterling family's money will be mine in the future. Dead silence filled the room. Lauren covered her mouth in terror, her body swaying as if about to collapse. Blake, as if struck by lightning, knelt on the ground, staring blankly at the screen, then turned to look at Lauren. You did it on purpose. Blake's voice was trembling. You told me before that you didn't do it on purpose. You said it was just an accident. Of course she did it on purpose. Noah put away his phone, his tone as calm as if reading a verdict. Not only that, Blake, that gaming company you're so proud of that's about to go public has actually been running at a loss all along, only kept afloat by embezzling public funds from your father's company. Lauren taught you this too, right? Falsifying accounts to defraud the Vanderbilt family of their investment. Enough! Blake jumped up frantically, trying to grab Lauren. You bitch! You lied to me! You said you loved me! You're just stupid! Lauren screamed while backing away. Her high heel twisted, and she fell to the ground in a pathetic heap. Who told you to be a useless waste who can only rely on women? The two people who had just been putting on a star-crossed lovers act were now biting at each other like two rabid dogs. I watched this scene unfold, not feeling even a hint of satisfaction, only sadness. This was the person I had loved for years, the person who almost destroyed me. Security. I waved my hand like shooing away two flies. Throw them out. Don't dirty everyone's carpet. Blake and Lauren were forcibly dragged away by security, their curses and cries disappearing behind the closed doors. The dinner music started playing again, more upbeat than before. People raised their glasses one after another, casting looks of approval and admiration my way. In this circle, the strong are always respected, and I had just proven that I wasn't just a Vanderbilt daughter, I was myself. Now, the world is quiet. Noah whispered in my ear. I turned around and looked at him. How did you get those chat logs? That was a private group. Noah smiled mysteriously. I have my ways, and for someone who's been coding since 12, nothing is absolutely private. So, you're really a hacker? Or a future tech mogul? He winked. Oh, right, I forgot to tell you something. Sterling Industries was acquired yesterday. By who? A tech company called Genesis. That's my company. I froze. After the dinner ended, Manhattan's first snow since winter began started falling outside. Noah didn't let me get in that flashy sports car. Instead, he held my hand as we strolled along the snow-covered paths in Central Park. The streetlights glowed a dim yellow. Snowflakes drifted down softly, and the world was so quiet that the only sound was the crunch of our footsteps on the snow. So, you're Blake's new boss now? I still found it somewhat unbelievable. To be precise, I'm his father's boss. Noah tucked my hand into his coat pocket to keep it warm. Sterling Industries has some patents that are still worth something. After stripping away the bad assets, it can be merged into my hardware division. As for Blake, I might arrange a position that suits him. Like what? Janitor or in charge of running errands to buy coffee for employees? Noah pondered seriously. But this time, I'll make sure no one adds whole milk for him. I couldn't help but laugh, laughing so hard I almost had tears in my eyes. Noah, you hit it so deep. The whole school thought you were some poor kid on financial aid. It's more peaceful that way. Noah stopped walking and turned to look at me. Besides, it let me see a lot of people for who they really are, including you. Me? You probably don't remember. Noah's voice became very soft, carrying a hint of nostalgic tenderness. 12 years ago, at an orphanage in Brooklyn. My memory was a bit hazy. I was only 8 years old back then, and every Christmas I would go with my mother to various institutions to do charity work. Back then, I had just been sent there. I was withdrawn, didn't like to talk, and got bullied by the older kids who threw my backpack into the trash. Noah narrated slowly. That day you were handing out gifts and saw me hiding in the corner. You didn't give me candy or a teddy bear like everyone else. Instead, you gave me that old MacBook you were holding. The floodgates of memory suddenly opened. I remembered. It was a boy so thin and frail, like a little kitten, with stubborn yet wary eyes. I had just gotten a new computer back then, and that old one was what I was bringing to donate. You said back then, take this, learn how to use it, and no one will be able to bully you anymore. Noah looked into my eyes, his gaze burning. That computer changed my entire life. It was my first friend and also my key to the world. I used it to learn programming, took my first freelance job, and earned my first pot of gold. I covered my mouth in shock, so the gears of fate had already started turning that long ago. Later, I got into Yale and found out you were there too. I kept watching you struggle to maintain that perfect fiancé image, watching you suffer in silence. Noah's hand caressed my cheek, his fingertips slightly cool. I originally wanted to wait until you broke up, or until I had enough strength to stand by your side, but that day at the party, when I saw him hit you, I couldn't wait anymore. Noah, my voice choked up. Harper, I don't want to be some knight or some guardian. Noah lowered his head, pressing his forehead against mine. I want to be the one who keeps you from having to tough it out alone on snowy days, the one who lets you drop your guard anytime, anywhere. I want to be your boyfriend, not the business marriage kind, but the real kind. Snowflakes landed on his eyelashes, melting into glistening droplets. On this cold, snowy night, in the heart of this cruel world of fame and fortune, I heard the most beautiful words of love in the world. Then you'd better be prepared, I sniffled and said with a smile. This lady is very hard to please. Perfect. Noah kissed my lips, a kiss that tasted of cedar and champagne. I just love a good challenge. 4 years later. On the cover of Forbes magazine, there was a photo of two people. The woman in the photo wore a sharp white suit, her gaze keen and confident. The man stood half a step behind her, wearing a simple black turtleneck sweater, his eyes always following her. The headline read, "The Perfect Union of Tech Nouveau Riche and Old Money. How Noah Cohen and Harper Vanderbilt are reshaping New York's business landscape." I put down the magazine and looked at the figure busy in the kitchen. Noah was making me breakfast, a special oat milk latte, absolutely no dairy. The magazine made you look too serious. I walked over and hugged him from behind, wrapping my arms around his waist. "Really?" Noah turned around, holding a latte in his hand, and placed a kiss on my forehead. "As long as they make you look good." Our life didn't end like a fairy tale on that snowy night, but rather began a new chapter. After graduation, I took over part of the family business and, with technical support from Noah's company, successfully completed a digital transformation. The Vanderbilt Group's stock price quadrupled, and those old directors who once questioned me as just a trophy socialite now have to be respectful when they see me. As for Blake and Lauren, I heard that after Sterling Industries was acquired, Blake actually worked as a low-level salesman for a few months. But because he couldn't handle the hardship and was prosecuted for embezzling funds, he's now on probation and has to do community service sweeping streets every day. Sometimes I drive through that neighborhood and see him wearing an orange vest picking up trash, but I can't even be bothered to roll down my window. After Lauren's true colors were exposed, she tried to play the victim online to become an influencer. But netizens dug up the poisoned latte incident from back then, and she completely crashed and burned. Now she's reportedly working as a cashier in some remote state, no longer the cool girl she once was. "What are you thinking about?" Noah set breakfast on the table. "Thinking about if I hadn't given you that computer back then, or if I hadn't called the police at the party that day, what would we be like now?" Noah sat down, looking at me seriously. "No matter where you are, no matter what happens, I will find you. This has nothing to do with computers and nothing to do with calling the police. This is gravity, Harper. Just like an infinite loop in code, once it starts running, I'm destined to point to you." I smiled, picked up that warm oat latte, and took a sip. So sweet. Not the kind of sweet from saccharin, but the sweetness life is meant to have, grounded, safe, and full of hope. Outside the window, the Manhattan sunlight was just right.